Imagine standing on a rain-slicked deck, clutching a glass of lemonade that's gone warm, as the man who raised you, General Roland Vance, a name carved in military legend, leans close and murmurs, "The deck is for failures." Those words, sharp as a blade, cut through Lila Harper, a 34-year-old woman whose secret life as a covert operative makes her the Pentagon's most dangerous shadow. Yet here, in her childhood home in Asheville, North Carolina, she's nothing but a ghost, banished from her brother's victory party. The scent of cedar and grilled peaches drifts from the celebration, a cruel reminder of a world that no longer claims her. This is Lila's story, a tale of betrayal, hidden truths, and a fight to reclaim her legacy. Stick with us, because what unfolds will grip your heart and leave you questioning the cost of honor. If this hits home, hit that like button, drop a comment about a time you felt unseen, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories that cut to the core. The mountain air was heavy with the scent of cedar and wet stone as Lila Harper steered her battered SUV through the winding roads of Asheville. At 34, she carried a weight no one could see, not in her steady hands or her unreadable hazel eyes. She was heading to the sprawling log cabin her parents called home, a place where memories of childhood laughter now felt like echoes from a stranger's life. Tonight was her younger brother Ethan Vance's promotion party, Captain Ethan Vance, the pride of General Roland Vance. Lila hadn't come for joy. She came out of duty, a faint hope flickering that maybe, just maybe, this time her family might see her. The cabin glowed through the twilight, its windows spilling golden light. Through the cedar trees, Lila glimpsed the back deck alive with clinking glasses and booming laughter. Military officers in crisp uniforms mingled with their elegantly dressed spouses, orbiting Ethan, whose easy grin and broad shoulders mirrored their father's. Lila slipped inside, the air conditioning a sharp contrast to the humid evening. She moved like a shadow, practiced and silent, aiming for the drink table. The lemonade pitcher glistened with condensation, a small anchor in the chaos of celebration. Her aunt, Clara Boone, caught her eye, a fleeting glance of pity that stung worse than scorn. Clara turned away, and Lila's chest tightened. She was an afterthought here, a glitch in the perfect Vance family narrative. As the call for dinner ushered guests to tables adorned with red, white, and blue centerpieces, Lila lingered by the sliding glass door. She felt him before she saw him. General Roland Vance, his presence a force that shifted the room's gravity. His hand landed on her shoulder, not warm but commanding, guiding her to the deck. His voice was a low growl, laced with whiskey. "Ethan earned this night, Lila. Don't taint it with your presence." He pressed a glass of lemonade into her hand, his eyes cold. "The deck is for failures." Without another word, he rejoined the party, his broad back a wall between her and the life inside. Lila stood frozen, the glass warming in her grip, the hum of the party now a distant roar. The deck's wooden planks creaked beneath her, the only sound in her exile. From her vantage point, she watched the celebration unfold like a play she wasn't cast in. Ethan's laughter rang out, her mother Evelyn's smile never wavered, and Roland toasted his son's brilliance. Then, a projector flickered to life on the lawn, and Lila's breath caught. Was it a slideshow? A chance for a forgotten memory to surface? But no, a single image appeared, and it was a knife to her heart. The projector's glow cast a cruel spotlight on Lila Harper's exile, standing alone on the rain-dampened deck of her family's Asheville cabin. The image on the screen wasn't the slideshow she'd hoped for. No nostalgic snapshot of her and Ethan building forts in the backyard. Instead, it was a pristine family portrait. General Roland Vance, his wife Evelyn, and their son, Captain Ethan Vance, standing before the cabin draped in twinkling holiday lights. The photo, taken last winter during Lila's brief, tense visit, was a deliberate erasure. They'd waited until she was gone to capture this new truth. A family without her, polished and perfect. The lemonade in her hand was now lukewarm, the ice long melted, mirroring the cold realization sinking into her bones. In the warm circle of her family's love, Lila Harper didn't exist. The laughter from the party swelled, a chorus of belonging that mocked her solitude. Through the glass door, she watched Roland raise his glass, his voice a muffled boom as he toasted Ethan's rise in the ranks, a son who carries the Vance name with honor. Evelyn's eyes shone with pride, her smile a beacon of approval Lila had never earned. The guests clapped, their applause a wall she couldn't breach. Lila's gaze lingered on her father's face, his broad grin masking the cold, dismissive eyes she knew too well. Those eyes had judged her before, 10 years ago, in a room that reeked of polished oak and betrayal. She was 24 then, a West Point cadet on the cusp of graduation, her future bright with promise. But one night changed everything. The memory clawed at her now, as vivid as the cedar-scented air. It was a grueling night navigation exercise in the Catskill Mountains, rain hammering down, turning the forest into a maze of mud and shadow. Lila led her squad, her compass steady, her instincts sharper than the worn map in her hands. But something was wrong. The terrain didn't match the map's faded lines. A creek was on the wrong side, a ridge too steep. Her gut screamed danger. Peering through the downpour, she saw it. A faint, pulsing red light in the distance, a warning beacon for a live-fire range. They were walking into a kill zone. Lila's voice cut through the radio static, calm but urgent. Command, this is Harper. Halting to confirm position. Map discrepancies detected. The response from her supervising officer, Lieutenant Derek Holt, was sharp, dripping with disdain. Negative. Cadet Harper. Trust your map. Proceed immediately. Her squad hesitated, looking to her. The rain stung her face, but the dread in her chest was colder. She couldn't obey. Get down, she shouted, lunging to shove a cadet, Jasper Klein, to the ground. A heartbeat later, tracer rounds tore through the air above them, green streaks of death where their heads had been. The squad lay pinned in the mud, the smell of wet earth and cordite choking their lungs. That moment should have been her triumph. Instead, it was her undoing. In a sterile office at West Point, Lieutenant Holt spun a tale of her panic, her recklessness, her failure. General Roland Vance sat behind his desk, his eyes fixed on Holt's falsified report, never once meeting Lila's. He didn't ask for her version. His silence was a verdict, heavier than any court-martial. The issue, Lila, he said, his voice like ice, is that you undermined a superior officer. You broke the chain of command. He slid a withdrawal form across the desk, a pen beside it. Sign it. For the family's honor. Her hand shook as she signed, each stroke erasing her dreams, her truth buried under her father's lies. Back on the deck, the party's glow felt like a taunt. Lila's fingers tightened around the glass, her reflection in the dark window a ghost of that cadet. But something else stirred, a spark of defiance, fanned by the portrait's betrayal. She wasn't just a failure. She was a weapon, forged in the shadows of a world her father couldn't touch. And tonight, that weapon was waking up. What had Roland hidden in that office 10 years ago? And what would happen when the truth clawed its way out? The rain-soaked memory of that night in the Catskills clung to Lila Harper like damp earth, its weight pulling her back from the Asheville deck where she stood, an outcast clutching a warm glass of lemonade. 10 years ago, at 24, she was a West Point cadet, her future a bright thread woven with ambition and duty. But one stormy night unraveled it all, a moment that should have crowned her a hero but instead branded her a failure. The betrayal in her father's office wasn't just a wound, it was the spark that would ignite a decade-long war for her truth. What happened that night wasn't just a mistake. It was a deliberate lie, one that General Roland Vance chose to protect over his own daughter. Stay with us, because this story of courage and betrayal is only beginning to unfold. The Catskill Forest was a beast that night, rain hammering the cadets like a relentless enemy. Lila led her squad through the dark, her boots sinking into mud, her topographic map sodden but clutched tightly. The air smelled of pine and ozone, each breath sharp with urgency. Her compass was steady, but her instincts screamed. The map was wrong. A creek flowed on their right instead of their left. A ridge loomed steeper than marked. She halted the squad, her gloved hand raised, her penlight's red glow barely piercing the downpour. Something's off, she whispered, tracing the map's creases. Then she saw it, a faint red pulse in the distance, like a heartbeat in the void. A live fire range warning light. They were seconds from disaster. "Command, this is Harper," she radioed, her voice steady despite the dread coiling in her gut. Halting to verify position. Map discrepancies detected. Lieutenant Derek Holt's reply crackled through, sharp and dismissive. "Negative. Harper, trust your instruments. Move forward now." His tone carried the weight of authority, but Lila's instincts were louder. She scanned the darkness, the red light pulsing closer. Her squad's eyes were on her, trusting, waiting. She couldn't lead them into death. "Get down!" she roared, diving to tackle Jasper Klein to the ground. A split second later, tracer rounds ripped through the air, green fire slicing where their heads had been. The squad hugged the mud, hearts pounding, the smell of cordite and wet earth choking their lungs. Lila had saved 3 lives. But salvation came at a cost. Days later, she stood in General Roland Vance's office at West Point, the air heavy with the scent of oak polish and power. Lieutenant Holt stood at attention, his face pale but his voice smooth, spinning a tale of Lila's panic, her disorientation, her reckless defiance. His report, neatly typed, painted her as a liability, a cadet who crumbled under pressure. Lila stood rigid, her damp uniform clinging to her skin, waiting for her father to ask her side. He didn't. His eyes, cold as the rain that night, stayed fixed on the report. His silence was a guillotine, severing her from the family's legacy. "The issue, Lila," he said finally, his voice devoid of warmth, "is that you made an officer look weak. You broke the chain of command." He slid a withdrawal form across the desk, a black pen beside it, heavy as a weapon. "Sign it," he said. "Cite personal reasons. It's cleaner for the academy, for the family." Lila's throat burned with unshed tears. "What about the truth, Dad?" she whispered. His eyes turned to ice, the father she knew replaced by a general. "The truth," he said, each word a stone, "is what the person in authority decides it is." Her hand trembled as she signed, the ink a dark stain on her future. With that signature, she wasn't just leaving West Point. She was burying her dreams, her truth, under the weight of her father's lies. Back on the deck, the party's glow flickered through the glass door, Ethan's laughter a distant echo. The family portrait still burned in her mind, a testament to her erasure. But Lila wasn't that cadet anymore. She was something else, something dangerous. The truth Roland buried was a ticking bomb, and she held the detonator. What had he hidden all those years ago? And what would happen when Ethan, the golden son, started asking questions? The echo of General Roland Vance's betrayal lingered on the Asheville deck, where Lila Harper stood, her lemonade glass a warm weight in her hand. The family portrait on the projector screen, a perfect trio without her, had carved a fresh wound, but it also fanned a spark of defiance. 10 years ago, her father's lies had buried her dreams at West Point, branding her a failure. Now, as the party's laughter mocked her exile, Lila's past was no longer a scar but a map to her rebirth. She wasn't just the disgraced cadet anymore. She had become a ghost, forged in the shadows of a world her father couldn't touch. This isn't just a story of loss, it's a tale of transformation, where a woman stripped of everything finds a power no one can take away. Stay with us, because Lila's next move will leave you breathless. After signing away her future at West Point, Lila's world crumbled. 4 weeks, she drifted, her life reduced to the 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. shift at a greasy diner off a desolate highway in Roanoke, Virginia. The air reeked of burnt coffee and bacon fat, clinging to her like shame. She scrubbed syrup-sticky counters, her reflection in the diner's smudged windows a hollow stranger, pale, eyes dulled, a ghost of the cadet who once burned with purpose. Each night, as she mopped the checkered floor, the weight of her father's words, "The truth is what the person in authority decides," pressed down, a low-grade fever of despair. This was rock bottom, a life measured in coffee refills and crumpled tips. Then, one night, her cheap burner phone buzzed, a blocked number. She almost ignored it, but a prickle of instinct made her answer. "Is this Harper?" a woman's voice asked, calm and clipped, like a blade wrapped in silk. "Who's this?" Lila rasped, her voice rusty from disuse. The woman ignored her question. "Be at this address tomorrow, 1400 hours. Come alone." She rattled off a location in Arlington and hung up. Lila's pulse quickened, a flicker of the old fire stirring. The next day, she boarded a Greyhound bus, her life packed into a worn backpack, and arrived at a nondescript office building. Gray, forgettable, the kind of place eyes slide past. Inside, Major Nora Callahan waited, a woman in her late 40s with sharp gray eyes that missed nothing. She didn't waste breath on pleasantries, gesturing Lila to a chair. On the table lay a thick file, Lila's life, dissected. "We've read your reports, Harper," Callahan said, her tone all business. "The official one calls you a liability. The unofficial one, from your squad's whispers, says you saved 3 lives." She leaned forward, her gaze piercing. "We don't care about the drama. We care about results. You delivered under pressure and got burned for it. That makes you perfect for us." She slid a blank binder across the table. "This is the Phantom Corps," Callahan said, her voice dropping to a near whisper. "We don't exist. No rank, no medals, no name in any database. You'll be a ghost, gone from the world." She paused, letting the weight settle. "In return, you'll have purpose. Missions no one else can touch, in places no one else can go. We won't love you, Harper, but we'll never lie to you. A life without lies, the one thing Roland Vance could never offer." Lila opened the binder and signed, her hand steady, her heart racing with a strange, cold hope. The years that followed were a crucible. Phantom Corps didn't train her in combat, but in the art of vanishing. She learned to sift through terabytes of data to predict a target's next move, to blend into a crowded Raleigh mall for hours, unseen. She mastered crafting aliases, new names, histories, personalities, built in a day and dismantled without a trace. She could spot a foreign agent by the angle of their wrist holding a coffee cup in a DC cafe. Lila Harper, the cadet, was dead. In her place was a shadow, a scalpel in the dark, her power rooted in being underestimated. Late at night, catching her reflection in a darkened window, hair dyed, eyes flat, she felt a jolt of dislocation. Who was this stranger? But the answer was clear. She was a weapon, and her father had no idea what he'd unleashed. Lila Harper's reflection in the Asheville cabin's dark window was a stranger's, hair dyed chestnut, eyes flat with the weight of a life rebuilt from ashes. The family portrait on the projector, excluding her, was a fresh wound, but it stoked a fire that connected her past betrayal at West Point to her present as a Phantom Corps operative. 10 years ago, her father, General Roland Vance, buried her truth to protect his legacy. Now, as the party's laughter echoed beyond the deck, Lila's transformation into a ghost was complete, but a single question from her commander would crack her carefully forged armor, revealing the human beneath. This isn't just a story of secrets. It's a heartbeat of vulnerability, pulsing with the courage to face pain. Stay with us, because Lila's next moment will hit you where it hurts most. The Phantom Corps had sculpted Lila into a shadow, invisible yet lethal, her life a series of missions in unseen corners of the world. But after a botched operation in Charleston, South Carolina, everything shifted. The mission was to retrieve a stolen encryption key from a dockside warehouse, but Lila misjudged a guard's patrol pattern. A blade grazed her shoulder, leaving a jagged scar and a dull, throbbing pain, a reminder of her fallibility. She'd secured the key, but the error haunted her, a crack in her flawless facade. Back at Phantom Corps' underground headquarters, a windowless vault humming with server racks, Lila braced for the inevitable debriefing. The air was cold, sterile, the fluorescent lights casting harsh shadows. She handed her after-action report to Colonel Nora Callahan, now promoted, her posture rigid, her breathing controlled. She expected a dissection of her mistake, the military's cold calculus of failure, her father's way. Callahan read the report, her face unreadable, aligning the pages with precision on her desk. Lila stood, steeling herself for the critique, her mind replaying the warehouse's dim corners, the glint of the blade. But Callahan didn't speak of the mission. She looked up, her grey eyes softening, and asked, "Lila, are you okay?" The question landed like a shockwave, simple yet seismic. In 10 years, through West Point's betrayal, diner shifts, and countless missions, no one in authority had ever asked her that. Not her father, who demanded obedience. Not her mother, who polished the family's image. The words bypassed Lila's defenses, striking a buried wound. Her throat tightened, and to her horror, tears spilled, hot and unstoppable, tracing paths down her cheeks. She hadn't cried since signing that withdrawal form, since her father's icy gaze erased her. Callahan didn't flinch. She slid a box of tissues across the desk, her silence a steady anchor. Lila's sobs were silent but racking, a release of years of suppressed pain. When her breathing steadied, Callahan spoke again, her voice gentle but firm. "Roland Vance was wrong, Lila." It was the first time she'd used Lila's first name. "He taught you strength is never showing weakness, that vulnerability is failure. That's a lie we tell operatives to make them effective, not a truth to live by." She leaned forward, her gaze kind but unyielding. "Real strength is facing your brokenness and choosing to stand anyway." The words echoed a voice Lila had found in sleepless nights, listening to podcasts through earbuds, the volume low. A researcher, Breen Brown, spoke of vulnerability as courage, of stepping into fear rather than burying it. In this cold vault, Colonel Callahan saw past the operative, past the ghost, to the woman beneath. She saw the wound, her father's betrayal, her family's erasure, and offered validation no Vance ever had. Lila wiped her eyes, the tears leaving a strange clarity. A seed of rebellion sprouted, a quiet vow to reclaim her story, not just for herself but for the truth her father had buried. As she left the vault, the hum of servers fading behind her, Lila felt a shift. The family portrait, Roland's cold words on the deck, the lies of West Point, they weren't just pain anymore. They were fuel. Callahan's question had cracked her armor, but it also revealed her strength. What would happen when Lila turned that strength against the man who tried to erase her? And what secret was Roland so desperate to keep that he'd sacrifice his own daughter? The hum of Colonel Nora Callahan's words, "Real strength is facing your brokenness," still lingered in Lila Harper's mind as she stood on the Asheville deck, the family portrait's glow a cruel reminder of her erasure. The pain of her father's betrayal at West Point, the weight of her transformation into a phantom core ghost, and now Callahan's piercing question had forged a new clarity. Lila wasn't just a shadow anymore. She was a spark, ready to ignite. The party's laughter, Ethan's shining moment, and General Roland Vance's cold dismissal on the deck were no longer just wounds. They were a call to war. When a single phone call from her father threatens to unravel everything she's built, Lila's response will shift the battlefield forever. Stay with us, because this moment is where the fight begins, and it's going to burn. Days after the party, Lila was in a secure mobile command unit near Fort Bragg, overseeing a data transfer under the hum of encrypted servers. The air was chilled, the screens casting a pale glow on her face, her fingers steady on the keyboard. Her burner phone buzzed, a scrambled number, one she hadn't seen in years but knew by heart. Her thumb hovered, a flicker of old fear rising before she crushed it. She answered, silent, letting the line crackle. Then his voice came, General Roland Vance, but not the polished commander. It was a raw, guttural roar, seething with rage. "What the hell are you doing, Lila?" Her name, spat like a curse, was a shock. He only used it when fury overtook him. "Sergeant Major Quinn called me. His men saluted you, General Vance, ma'am. What kind of stunt are you pulling? Are you trying to ruin this family?" The accusation was a match to dry tinder. Roland didn't ask about her life, her work, only how her existence threatened his pristine image. Lila's silence, once a reflex of fear, was now a weapon. She let him rage, his heavy breaths crackling over the secure line. "Who do you think you are?" he snarled. "A West Point dropout, and you've got a command sergeant major saluting you? You're tarnishing the Vance name." His words were predictable, a script of control and contempt. But Lila was no longer the cadet trembling in his office. She was a ghost, unseen and untouchable, with power he couldn't fathom. Her voice, when she spoke, was calm, each word a blade honed by years of silence. "I'm just doing my job." Roland's laugh was sharp, derisive. "Your job? What, slinging drinks at some dive bar? Whatever game you're playing, Lila, it ends now. I don't know how you got that clearance, but I'll find out. I'll shut it down. Do not test me." The threat was a line in the sand, a declaration of war. He wasn't just dismissing her, he was vowing to destroy the life she'd built, not for justice, but to protect his ego, his legacy. The old pain, the sting of his rejection, was gone, replaced by a sended clarity, sharp as a shard of glass. Lila's hand tightened on the phone, not from fear but from a rage so pure it felt like ice. "You won't investigate anything, General," she said, her voice low, lethal. "Because you don't have the clearance." The words were a grenade, shattering his world of control. She savored the silence, the shift of power. "And you'd better hope I never use my clearance to investigate you." She ended the call, the click echoing like a gunshot. The command unit's sterile air felt electric. Roland had underestimated her for the last time, awakening a force he couldn't control. Lila's fingers flew across the keyboard, accessing the Phantom Core archives. A file flickered to life, Operation Starfall, a secret she'd buried for Ethan. The war was on, and her brother was about to become her greatest weapon. The click of Lila Harper's phone ending her father's threatening call still echoed in the sterile command unit near Fort Bragg, the hum of servers a quiet pulse beneath her rage. General Roland Vance's vow to destroy her new life had flipped a switch, turning her pain into a weapon. The family portrait, her West Point betrayal, and Colonel Callahan's question, "Are you okay?" had forged Lila into a ghost, but now she was a storm. Operation Starfall, a secret buried in a gift to her brother Ethan, was her ace, a digital tripwire waiting to be triggered. As Lila's fingers danced across the keyboard, accessing the Phantom Core archives, she wasn't just fighting for herself. She was setting a trap for the truth. Stay with us, because this move is where the shadows start to speak, and the fallout will shake the Vance legacy to its core. Years ago, when Ethan graduated from Officer Candidate School, Lila stood on a sunlit parade ground, her heart heavy with a mix of pride and loss. She handed him a standard-issue field notebook, olive drab, unremarkable. "For your notes," she'd said, her smile tight. Ethan, eager to please their father standing nearby, flipped through the blank pages with a polite nod. "Thanks, Lila, but I'll stick with Dad's methods," he'd said, his dismissal a small cut. What he didn't know, what no one knew, was the notebook's secret. Sewn into the back cover, hidden in a layer of vinyl so thin it was invisible, was a wafer-thin data disk, a marvel of Lila's early Phantom Core training. If connected to any non-Phantom network, it would ping her secure server, a silent alarm. She hadn't planted it to trap Ethan, not then. It was a lifeline, a desperate hope that one day her brother, the boy she'd once shared secrets with under Asheville's stars, might seek the truth. Now, Roland's threat had changed the game. Lila knew Ethan. His loyalty to their father was ironclad, but his mother's curiosity ran in his veins, a quiet, relentless need to understand. The strange salute from Sergeant Major Quinn at Fort Bragg, the base's refusal to disclose Lila's role, and Roland's evasive fury would be gnawing at him. Ethan was Special Forces. He didn't stop until every stone was turned. Lila wouldn't hand him the truth. That would be too easy to dismiss. He had to choose it. In the command unit's dim glow, she crafted a message, anonymous, routed through encrypted relays across 4 continents. It was sent to Ethan's closest friend, Lieutenant Jasper Klein, the same cadet she'd saved at West Point, now a puzzle-obsessed officer with a knack for gossip. The message was simple, a spark to ignite doubt. "If you want to know who General Vance really is, ask about Lieutenant Holt's report, West Point 2015. She hit send, the message vanishing into the digital ether. Lila leaned back, the servers hum a steady rhythm. She'd planted a seed in the fertile ground of a tight-knit military unit, where rumors spread like wildfire. Jasper would show Ethan the message over beers, his eyebrows raised, his curiosity infectious. Ethan's pride, his need for answers, would do the rest. For 4 days, silence followed, and doubt crept in. Had she misjudged him? Was Roland's myth too strong? Then, on the 5th night, as Lila monitored satellite feeds, a discreet alert chimed on her terminal. Operation Starfall activated. Her breath caught. Ethan had found the disk. In his apartment, he'd slit the notebook's cover, uncovering the steel-gray disk. Plugged into his tablet, it revealed a portal with a stylized Raven logo, Phantom Core, and one file, Lieutenant Holt's original report, praising Lila's heroism in saving her squad, alongside the falsified version Roland had endorsed. Ethan's world was tilting, and Lila's trap had sprung. What would he do with a truth that shattered his father's legacy? The chime of Operation Starfall activated still rang in Lila Harper's ears as she sat in the dim glow of the Phantom Core command unit, the servers hum a steady pulse against the storm brewing within her. Her father, General Roland Vance, had tried to bury her truth 10 years ago at West Point, erasing her from the family portrait and threatening her new life as a ghost operative. But the data disk she'd hidden for her brother Ethan had done its work, cracking open the lie that defined their family. Now, as Lila prepared for the final reckoning, the truth was a weapon, and Ethan was its wielder. In a secret tribunal, the Vance legacy would face its judgment, and a new dawn would rise from its ashes. Stay with us, because this is where the shadows fall, and Lila's story finds its heart. The hearing was held in a sensitive compartmented information facility, a windowless vault buried beneath a nondescript annex in Washington, D.C. The air was heavy with the scent of steel and recycled oxygen, the silence broken only by the faint buzz of electronics. Lila and Ethan sat across from General Roland Vance, his dress uniform gleaming with ribbons, his posture radiating unshakable confidence. He believed this was a formality, a bureaucratic hiccup he'd squash with a few calls. His eyes, meeting Lila's, held not anger but disappointment, as if she and Ethan were errant children betraying his honor. He didn't know the room wasn't his stage. 3 of the 5 board members were Phantom Core officers, including Colonel Nora Callahan, their allegiance not to rank but to data, to truth. Lila presented the evidence with a calm that belied her racing heart, her voice steady as she walked through the exhibits. First, Lieutenant Holt's original report from West Point, 2015, praising her for saving her squad from a live-fire range. Second, the falsified report, branding her reckless, signed by Roland. Third, server logs from West Point, showing a file edit from the Vance family home under Roland's user ID. Finally, the audio of his threatening call. "I'll find out what you're doing, Lila, and I'll shut it down." The board's lead, a stern-faced man known only as the director, turned to Roland. "General Vance, do you dispute this evidence?" Roland's confidence frayed but held. He cleared his throat, his voice shifting to the cadence of a parade ground speech. "I amended the report," he admitted, eyes flicking to the military officers in the room, his peers. "I made a command decision to protect the chain of command and a promising officer's career. Sometimes, the truth must be managed for the greater good. It was a necessary sacrifice." The words hung, self-righteous and hollow, framing Lila's ruin as noble. Ethan stood, his chair scraping the floor, a jarring crack in the silence. His voice trembled with rage, but it carried the strength of a man unmoored. "A necessary sacrifice," he said, his finger pointing at Roland. The only sacrifice was Lila's. She lost her career, her dreams, her truth, for your lie. He sat, his words a thunderclap. Lila spoke next, her voice quiet but cutting. "You taught us honor is everything, sir. But your honor doesn't include the truth." The director didn't hesitate. "General Roland Vance, this board finds you guilty of falsifying an official report and intimidating a federal operative. Your honorary titles are stripped, your clearance revoked, effective immediately." He turned to Lila. "Cadet Harper's record is restored and sealed at the highest classification." Roland sat, his face gray, the Titan reduced to a man undone by the truth he'd buried. As the steel door clicked shut, Lila and Ethan stepped into DC's humid air, the sky a heavy grey. Victory was hollow, the cost their family. At Lila's apartment, Ethan placed his captain's bars on her table, announcing his transfer to a Pentagon desk job. "I can't wear these anymore," he said, "not knowing what they cost you." Lila pushed them back. "The honor's in you, Ethan." They sat in silence, a new bond forged, a unit of two, built on truth. What would this new legacy mean for them, and could it heal the scars of their past? Lila Harper's journey ended not on the Asheville deck, but on a C-130 transport plane climbing above the clouds, bound for a new mission. The weight of her father's betrayal, the family portrait's erasure, and the Tribunal's verdict had faded, replaced by a quiet peace. She stood before the Vietnam Veterans Memorial days earlier, her fingers tracing names etched in black granite, each a story, a sacrifice. Roland Vance's legacy was hollow, built on lies, but Lila's was real, carved in the truth she and Ethan had fought for. Ethan, now at the Pentagon, was building his own path, free from their father's shadow. Colonel Callahan's question, "Are you okay?" had given Lila permission to heal, to see herself not as a ghost but as a woman of courage. She touched the silver raven pin inside her jacket, the emblem of their new Vance unit. Her and Ethan, a family forged in fire. The plane's rumble was a steady heartbeat, the sky vast and open. Lila wasn't running anymore. She was soaring toward herself, her legacy not inherited but created, a testament to quiet choices made in the dark. This peace wasn't given, it was won, tooth and nail. If Lila's story of resilience and truth resonates with you, hit that like button and share a moment when you had to fight for your own truth in the comments. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to our channel for more stories that light up the shadows. Your story matters, and together, we can keep these tales of hope alive.